Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Sure doesn't have much to say in this go-round. So, Dracula, Prince of Darkness is the follow-up to Horror of Dracula, which was the first Hammer film released. Well, definitely for Dracula. I don't know if it was the first ever, but started off the Dracula series for sure. Followed up with Brides of Dracula, but it wasn't really a straight up. It wasn't really a straight follow-up from what I've heard. This is the third in the Dracula series, and from what I hear, this is the actual follow-up to Horror of Dracula. So we get Dracula obviously dead at the beginning, in ashes inside of an urn, and basically it starts with a follow-up straight from the last film. So you get flashbacks from what happened at the finale of Horror of Dracula, and that's how we begin. So yeah, hopping right into the story, we start off with like I said, a recap, and then it goes to a dead girl being taken to a forest basically by these townspeople or these priests of some kind, and they want to basically stake her heart because they're extremely superstitious. We're introduced to this other priest character named Father Sandor, and he comes along and he's basically calling these people idiots and superstitious and morons, and telling them that Dracula has been dead for 10 years and nobody has anything to worry about. So he wants to give this poor girl a proper funeral because clearly she's not a vampire or not even was bitten, but these people want to stake her just in case, even though she's dead of natural causes. And yeah, basically we're introduced to him. He ends up going to this inn. You know, there's garlic hung up everywhere because the entire townsfolk and village folk are still paranoid about Dracula coming back or vampirism starting up again. And priest basically is just laughing at everybody. So we are introduced at this inn to four characters. We are introduced to Charles and Diane, who are married, and then Charles's brother Alan and Helen, which are also husband and wife. So they get into a conversation with the priest and Father Sandor, and they basically, he introduces himself as a priest from a place called Kleinberg, and these four people, Charles, Diane, Helen, and Alan, are interested in going to a place called Carlsbad. And they are warned not to go there because apparently it's a very dangerous place, says Father Sandor, which kind of contradicts his character a little bit because he was kind of poking fun at everybody for being superstitious, but then he's afraid of the dangers of this place because of, you know, strange things and rumors that have been said to have been going on there. So I found that a little bit ironic, but nonetheless, he warns them not to go, basically. But they decide to go anyway. So they hire this carriage rider to take them there. The carriage rider stops 2 kilometers away from Carlsbad, these towns, and just says, like, I'm not going any further, forget it. And then there's a castle in the distance, and the carriage rider doesn't even want to look at the castle, and he basically just hops on the carriage and throws all the luggage off and is like, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. So they're there, and I believe it was Charles who wants to go to the castle and stay there because, you know, there's not really much other places to go. He wants to spend the night there, but everybody else wants to spend the night in this little hut because they're afraid of the castle, and the castle looks sketchy, and they don't want to basically take any risks, especially for whoever's, you know, living there. So they want to stay in a little hut, but Charles wants to go to the castle. This carriage comes along with horses that has no rider, so it's just horses which come with a carriage and then just stop right there in front of all these people. And of course Charles is like, sweet, let's take these horses, or let's take this carriage to Carlsbad. How do I forget a friggin' town name in 2 minutes? Carlsbad. Let's take these horses to Carlsbad, even though there's no rider, because that happens all the time. Carriages with horses just show up. Their lucky day. So of course they get on the horses with their luggage, and instead of the horses going to Carlsbad, the horses just automatically head to the castle by themselves. They can't be controlled. He's trying to turn them. He's trying to make them go in the direction that he wants them to go, but the horses just do their own thing and go to the castle and stop right in front of the castle doors. And then, again, Charles is just like, oh, well, we're here, so let's stay. We're introduced to, they go into the castle and everything is kind of set up for them. There's, a dinner table all full of food, as if, somebody in the castle was expecting them to arrive, which right off the bat is really, really sketchy. They start to go around the castle. They go up to, they find a bunch of bedrooms. Somehow their luggage ended up in the bedrooms because somebody took it there, and they're like, oh shit, our luggage is here, what the hell's going on? And then we're introduced to a character named Clove, and Clove is awesome. Clove is the funniest, creepiest, most like gothic movie looking guy ever. He has this huge face. His head is like a square almost. He has this massive jaw, and he just looks like that Frankensteinish monster, like the butler from Addams Family. That's how I can describe him. That big square face and that creepy glare that he gives everybody, and just the way he talks. He's so funny and creepy. Like, I wouldn't want him around, but he's funny to watch on screen. It's a great character. This film actually is very, very gothic with the castle and the set pieces. So good. I really like the atmosphere of it, and I really like the atmosphere in films like this. I really seek out films like this with its atmosphere, because you watch this at like midnight, if it's snowy outside or rainy outside, it really gives that impact of the scenery really well, really well. The Clove, he would be the servant to the master. Serves the two couples dinner, and mentions that the master of the castle is dead, and has left a set of instructions for him to use anytime guests arrive, because the castle still needs to be open for guests, kind of like a hotel, but a giant castle instead. So it's always available for hospitality, and he basically keeps this hospitality going. Obviously, he has other plans, more sinister plans. You obviously see that coming with a character like this. He mentions Count Dracula. Count Dracula's dead. Gives them dinner, sends them off to bed, whatnot. In the middle of the night, Alan notices that Clove is dragging a trunk, like this massive wooden trunk, down the halls. So he goes to kind of investigate what's going on. He ends up being killed by Clove, stabbed in the back, and Clove uses Alan's body, pinning it up over this huge coffin, but it's more like a tomb. It looks like it's this massive lidless coffin that it's basically made out of like ceramic. It's actually really beautiful looking, but it looks like this. It's huge. Like like I said, like it's bigger than a coffin. Like it's more like a tomb, like I said, or like some kind of. It's huge, and it looks cool, and he takes the urn with Dracula's ashes and he pours it inside this coffin, and then springs Alan head like upside down by his legs, and slits his throat and his blood, which the blood in this movie literally looks like tomato juice. It is so bright red. Like, it's not even dark whatsoever. It looks like ketchup. Like ketchup and water, basically. Like, all Hammer movies' blood is like that. It's funny. It's a product of the time, and it's a product of Hammer. It's like a trope. I mean, like, it's so unrealistic looking, but it's cool at the same time. It's, you know, you're watching a Hammer movie as soon as you see the blood. So pours out onto the ashes. Dracula is resurrected, and he does not speak in this movie. There's no dialogue from Dracula. Now, I heard on another channel called Cinemassacre, great channel by the way, on if you like reviews on bad video games and classic films, Cinemassacre is a way, and he mentioned that Christopher Lee apparently hated the dialogue so much that he refused to speak it, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, apparently he just hated the dialogue, and he's like, "No, screw it. I'm just not saying anything. I'm not reading any of this bullshit. I'll just be silent and just go," basically. So yeah, he does it. It's not that he does a bad job with it either. Like, he's really good with his facial expressions and portraying his character silently. But it's just such it's such a non. The continuity isn't there from Horror of Dracula, because he had amazing dialogue in that, and then going straight here where he doesn't speak at all. There is no continuity. It's a weird continuity that way. So that's what I find kind of odd. It's such a switch, because either, you know, have the dialogue in both or have silence in both. Like, to go from one to the other is just a little strange. But like I said, he has the chops to pull it off without any dialogue, but the switch is kind of bizarre. But you get over it. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything. He's got that presence in him. I mean, Christopher Lee is one of the best Draculas, hands down. There's no argument on that. So there's like I said, again with the gothic atmosphere, like there's a chandelier that has candles on it, and Clove is basically putting them out with one of those little bells that you put out candles with, but like on this massive chandelier. It's very, very gothic, and I love that atmosphere a lot. So Dracula, basically, really soon after he's resurrected, he ends up biting Helen and turning her into a countess. And then Alan pretty much goes missing, and Helen is bitten, so it's just Diane and Charles. His name is, yes, Charles. Charles and Diane. And then Diane wants to leave immediately because she's already getting bad vibes, obviously. And so Charles and her do leave, but Charles then decides to go back to find the other two, because he's not going to leave without his brother and without his brother's wife. It's just not going to happen. So so he goes there. He goes back to the castle, I mean. Clove ends up going to find Diane back in the hut where they came from originally, where the riderless carriage showed up. Clove goes over there and to pick up Diane, and is like, "Oh, Charles sent me. He needs you to come back to the castle immediately." Well, Diane goes and believes him. As soon as they get back to the castle, Clove locks her in there with this new Countess Helen, and Helen is trying to, of course, bite Diane, because Dracula's plan is to create a new colony of vampires. So there's this battle with Dracula and Helen and Diane and Charles, and they fight them off. They end up escaping, and once they escape, they run into Father Sandor again. And Sandor is obviously like, "I told you to stay away from this fucking place, did I not?" And he takes them back to Kleinsberg. Am I right? Kleinberg, his church, and basically tells them about vampirism. I don't know how you say that word. There is a lot of mythology that you see in other stories in this movie. They bring in the whole, you got to let the vampire in for them to enter, or you got to invite the vampire in before they can enter your home. So they mention that, which is cool, which is a very classic vampire trope. And so yeah, he's like, basically like, if Dracula shows up, just don't invite him in and he won't come in, so we're safe here. Of course, Diane doesn't know this, so when Helen shows up and she's like, please Diane, I'm freezing, everything is okay now, I'm not a vampire anymore, I've turned back, Diane lets her in. And I was going to say that Diane's an idiot, but then I realized, Diane wasn't there actually when Father Sandor was explaining that, so she's not really a dumbass. She just didn't know about the mythology, and she didn't know that, you know, if you don't invite the vampire in, they won't come in. So it's not her fault. But yeah, Helen ends up coming in and messing shit up. There's actually one quote that Father Sandor says, if you like cats. I was like, whoa. He mentions this, he's referring to Dracula, but he mentions this quote. He's like, to skin a cat, catch it first. And I'm like, to skin a cat? What? Who skins cats? Oh man. Apparently they do in this time. I don't know. I don't know what you do with the fucking cat fur, unless they're referring to tigers or something, but anyway. It's mentioned that humans can be turned into slaves and used as slaves for Dracula, because Dracula has that power. He doesn't always use it in people that he turns into vampires, but he can also use it in regular humans where they turn into his slave, or his slaves, and basically serve him. And that's basically where Clove is, and that's why Clove is as psychotic as he is, because he's only alive to serve his master. He's obsessed. He's kind of hypnotized in a sense. So in Kleinberg, Clove shows up to, he wants to stay a night in Kleinberg, but the instructions were put where nobody is allowed inside, because Father Sandor wants to protect Charles and Diane, and he knows now that Dracula is back. He wants to put an end to Dracula once again after 10 years, and he knows that Dracula basically can't be killed. He can only be destroyed, and it's usually temporarily or not forever, because Dracula is undead. He can't be killed. He can't be killed forever, basically. He's undead. So, there's a scene where Diane has triangle boobs, and it immediately reminded me of Tomb Raider. Lara Croft Tomb Raider from the PS1. I swear, that, like, there's a scene where tits stick out like this. They're triangles. Fucking weird. But yeah, it totally reminded me of Lara Croft. So Dracula comes in to the house, and he finds, or he's trying to turn Helen. He cuts Helen up, he cuts his chest so Helen can drink his blood and turn into a vampire himself. And he basically completely hypnotizes her, so she's already becoming his slave kind of thing. Grabs her, kicks down this glass door, just friggin' sprays glass everywhere, just from a little kick on the middle of the door. It's like, and then it's like, just friggin' an explosion of glass. So funny and so dramatic. Then takes her to the carriage where Clove is waiting outside, because Clove is ready to take Diane and Dracula back to the castle in these coffins on the back of a horse carriage. So Charles and the priest, Father Sandor, chase them down, and in order to, they have plans to destroy Dracula, and they catch Dracula midway, they catch Clove midway, who's carrying Dracula and Diane, and the carriage flips, one of the coffins goes that way, they find Diane in the one coffin, she's fine, they save her, she's not, like, she's out of her trance, and then they start the final battle with Dracula, which is great. and they use this gun on where Dracula is standing. Apparently, Dracula is weak to running water, and Dracula is he can drown easily. I've never heard that in a Dracula story, but apparently, water is one of Dracula's weaknesses, especially large amounts of it, because apparently, I don't know, Dracula can't swim or something, or and in the Hammer series, he can't really turn into a bat either. There's no like him turning into bats and flying away or anything. So water apparently is one of his big weaknesses, and that's how he is killed at the end of this film, by the priest shooting the ground or the floor where there's water underneath, and then Dracula. There's this big piece of floor where Dracula's standing, and then he falls in, and the floor tips, and he just goes right into the water. And Dracula, he doesn't have any dialogue, but he makes some of the funniest death sounds ever. My God, the sounds, he's like corniest thing ever. He's like not kidding, like high pitched, like I don't know why they chose that sound, but yeah, it makes for one hell of a sound bite, let me tell you. He falls into the water, he drowns, and credits roll. Yeah, that's Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and I really want to see the film before this, Brides of Dracula, because, like I said, they say it doesn't connect to horror, Dracula, or this one, but it looks like a cool film. It's a Hammer film, and you know, Brides of Dracula sounds like a wicked title. I can't wait to see that. But yeah, this is the continuation right from Horror of Dracula. I think out of the two, I would always go back to Horror of Dracula first. I think the plot is cooler and the characters are cooler. Peter Cushing wasn't in this either. I'm pretty sure. I didn't see him in here. No, he's not. Yeah, he's not. So there's no Peter Cushing in this one. Peter Cushing is in a shit ton of Hammer films, but not this one. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is a great film. Don't get me wrong. A staple in Hammer horror. But I think like having the two, and you know, Horror of Dracula and then this being its sequel, I would always go back to Horror of Dracula more, I think. And it's too bad that it doesn't have a Scream Factory release, but hopefully one day. Both are great. I cannot wait to discover the other Dracula sequels going forward, because I think there's 4 or 5 more. And they're great. I had a blast with this film. I mentioned at the beginning that I didn't know this, but there's a UK version and a US version in this one, and I watched the UK version because it's Hammer Horror. It's a UK production. I figured the UK version would be probably more appropriate and more classic. So next time I will be watching the US version. Next time I pop this in. And yeah, Christopher Lee is the man. Yeah, rest in peace, Christopher Lee. He's great. But that's my review on this film. It's a load of fun. It is super gothic. So this time of the year is top notch to be popping these kind of films in. So if you can find it, check it. I recommend it. Till next time. Lots of Hammer coming up, so be prepared for some more Hammer horror reviews. I love doing this series, so, and this is a lot, like all of them I'm discovering for the first time, because I had never really seen any Hammer horror films, so this is a lot of fun for me, and I hope it is for you, and yeah, till next time, till next review, cheers.